Good morning. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Lillian Muli, and this morning we look into the sensitivities around conversations that have been happening, conversations around grooming, meaning inappropriate behavior between students and teachers across Kenyan schools. Parents are concerned that their children have been living in silence, and this morning we want to explore exactly what grooming is all about and where the gaps lie in terms of policy within the Kenyan education system. My guest in studio, Susan Gitao. She's a psychologist and a lecturer at African Nazarene University. I'm also joined by Purity Ngina, who is the CEO, National Gender and Equality Commission. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us this morning. I'll start with you, Dr. Gitao. Grooming and what it looks like in a school context. In a nutshell, grooming is associated with looking good, being neat, but we're starting to hear this term being floated around in the Kenyan context, particularly when it comes to schools. Let's talk about what that looks like very simply.
Yeah, in a school setting, grooming would involve a teacher preparing a student for future engagement in sexual maybe engagement, and it can start as early as maybe year one or form one in the 844 system. And sometimes you find teachers will give you special treatment. Teachers can also give you leadership responsibilities that you're not even good at or you don't have the capacity in the same area. They can start also getting you out of class, telling you carry my books, you know, take you to the staff room. They can also start calling you in the staff room in the evening when there is no other teacher. And sometimes they can ensure that if there are outdoor activities, you're also in the list. Sometimes it takes also a different dimension, like a teacher body shaming you, always critiquing you, so that one day when they start showing you like you're not worthy, you start feeling close to them. Sometimes it's the issues we've had of someone in authority, like these people who come to schools these days, like the people who take students through drama. There are those who are good in sports. Sometimes right now we may have schools that need computer trainers and any other specialized trainer. Sometimes it is the very people we believe in, like a spiritual authority, where I feel I could go for consolation, I could go for counseling. Sometimes it is actually very sad. So it could be a teacher I really like as a student, and I'm like, I really like Lillian, teacher Lillian, who teaches chemistry. And so when I go to that teacher, they will start their grooming in their own style. And it's very sad, Lillian. Why I say it's sad, and I'm very happy to have Dr. Ngina here on set, because these are cases I deal with. I think there is no week that goes that I don't have issues of students. And sometimes I ask myself, do the teachers also know? Are they aware that this is grooming them? Because even when you tell a student they look beautiful, they have a nice body, according to me, that is still a child. And when you also tell them they are old enough, big enough to be married, that again, we do have teachers also, surprisingly, who will start giving the students gifts, you know? And so when you're given gifts, one day you start telling your mind, how do I pay back? And the day they will tell you, this and this is what I want from you, it becomes hard. Sometimes these teachers will make sure that your relationship with them is very secretive, but feeling very special. And so at the end of the day, you do not know how to tell on them. Yeah. Because it's a very private and secretive relationships. And how would you tell maybe Lillian that a teacher is grooming students? The other students even know. And that's why last time I said, if the students report this teacher, even if investigations will be carried out, first believe that student. Because the best interest of the child demands that we first listen to them as investigations are ongoing, so that we do not let a teacher go free. Sadly so, today, I don't know whether, Ngina, you're aware of this. We are having very many students also, with the LGBTQ movement taking a very strong position. We are having teachers also recruiting students. And sometimes they don't know. Very sad. Yeah. We also have in peer-on-peer child sexual violence in schools, where students are recruited into groups that they do not want, or you're told it's your birthday today, we're going to give you a challenge. But ideally, on the other hand, it is actually peer-on-peer child sexual violence. Yeah. Stories that break my heart, Lillian. And I'm happy today we met with Gina, because I believe always the government has the upper hand.
Right.
Always.
Thanks for that, Dr. Gitau. Purity, to you, what does the NGAC see as the root cause root causes that have allowed grooming to go on unchecked, even in elite institutions here in the country?
Thank you so much, Lillian, for inviting us here to speak about our children. And I think when you speaking more about the policies and how we see it is probably because the definition she has given us is not something that is already documented. Because we talk about sexual harassment, gender-based violence or violence in school. But of course, when you think about what she has defined, it borders on you violating me emotionally and traumatizing me, because if your intention of all the actions you're taking are not right, then it means by the end of the day, there's something, you're traumatizing my mind. And of course, statistics have shown that over 40% of our children, of us, even adults, experienced violence when you were young, whether it's sexual, whether it's physical, you know, any kind of violence. And sadly, lately, we have even seen corporal punishment still continuing, even when the Children's Act is very clear that children should not be violated. Our Constitution is also very clear. We have Sexual Offences Act. And I think the gap in the policy is not the policy itself, is the implementation, because one of the challenges is the referral. So I have been abused, or I've been taken advantage of by this person. Who is this now leader in that school that I'm going to report to? And we need to think about, I know the government and schools have been trying, they have champions, but is that enough? I think that is a question.
Talking about schools and, you know, just the Ministry of Education, the Teacher Service Commission, there's the general feeling that the laws and the rules that still apply today are archaic, and therefore terminologies such as grooming perhaps may never have been talked about back then when these laws were being implemented.
There are many gaps in terms of such definition, because if it is not defined, even the person, if you take the criminal justice, they might not be able to relate to what you're speaking about. And hence, you have to always try to fit in the violence. You know, you look at, is it a physical, is it emotional, and then how do you measure? What is the evidence? You know, if you're reporting that you have been violated emotionally. So having that person to trust on you. But few measures have been taken. I go to school where you have a peace corner. Right now, a child can get out of your class and go sit outside, and no punishment should be meted on that child, because those peace corners helps the school in terms of identification of the challenges that are happening. Because if children are moving out of your class, they have gone to sit outside, the principal or the head teacher has a responsibility. But we have seen, like, just to go back a little bit, when we had the issues of femicide, you realize also femicide is not defined in the law itself. So there are many small things that we need to look at. I know now we are amending or reviewing the Sexual Act, the Sexual Offences Act, and probably some of these things, and the conversation is now ongoing. So there is room to participate in public participation and bring out this newness that is not just sexual harassment. What is it, its form? What other nuances do we need to include as we try to define some of this violence? As the National Gender and Equality Commission, of course, our work is majorly oversight and offer advisory. So this conversation will help us, even when we are supporting the review of laws and bills, to always remember there's something that is new, that was not defined. Because you see the way she's saying that a teacher gives you a gift. Sometimes a child, you're very innocent. You're actually very happy to receive a pen from your teacher, maybe because you have done well. And also, there's always, sometimes you have to be very careful. We tell our girls, it's good to affirm yourself on the mirror. So what if they are affirmed by someone else? So what does that mean? Yeah.
Right, and we'll be coming back to you, Purity, on more on policies and, you know, gaps, indeed, in terms of laws. Dr. Gitao, when you talk about children within the school setting, are there certain characteristics or traits within some children that make them more vulnerable to grooming than others?
The list is long, and I'm sure I want to imagine that is why the Children's Act 2001, 2010, now revised 2022, has included a lot of safeguarding protocols for children. This child, most likely Lillian, one could be a vulnerable child, because if I don't have money, I don't have pocket money, I can't do mandazis like other kids, and then there's a teacher providing that for me, I will go for it, because I want to be like any other child. Sometimes it is children who have been exposed to sexual activities before. So it's not a big thing, and you can tell by the way they dress, the way they talk, and they become very easy prey, or they are easy targets. Sometimes they are children who don't have the self-esteem like she has said. Children who don't have very clear boundaries at home. People do what they want. They are exposed maybe to parents who don't care, exposing their sexual interactions with their partners, and they are watching. Maybe these are children who have been exposed to pornographic sites. These are children, again, who could be left on their own. Lillian is very sad, because when I speak like this, there are some teachers that I'm working with, some very good principals, who have not allowed the girls or the boys to be sent home because they imagine there could be something else happening at home. Most of these children have what we call insecure attachment. And if you have insecure attachment, you do not want to be left alone or on your own. So I have actually seen, if they are brought so close, they have been groomed, gotten so close, they don't want to lose this teacher. In fact, they feel like there's a very big void in them. Sometimes it's a peer-to-peer, they also feel the same. If it's also a teacher that likes them and then all of a sudden wants to push them away, they do not want. So the cycle of abuse continues. Some of them have had actual sexual violence situations at home. And for me, when we talk about Children's Act 2022, with all the guidelines that have been given, I always worry, because corporal punishment is happening. And sometimes when you want these children to confess something, I believe there are better ways. If we do have professional counselors in schools, I always ask schools, principals, and guidance and counseling teachers and parents, why would your child, Lillian, come to me in my therapy room and be able to tell me what they have never told you? What is it about you? So for me, the children who don't have safe objects here, I mean a parent, a teacher, that guidance and counseling teacher, that chaplain in the school, they don't feel safe. Yeah. They are easy targets, because anybody who doesn't like to be loved.
I'll allow Purity to jump in on that very shortly, but before that, let's clarify, because there's a general assumption that this abuse only happens to girls, and yet boys also find themselves in situations where they too could be victims.
And for the boys, it's quite interesting. I had another boy recently who told me, because we do a checklist on trauma, so there was one area you ask about sex, and so the boy said, I have serious issues here. And I was like, who's serious issues? So the boy tells me, there's this teacher who comes dressed this way, a female teacher. And for me, I get this funny feeling. You see, that's why I say we can't condemn these kids. They need more education, psychoeducation in this regard, other than condemning them. And the boy is not able to concentrate in class. What would you call that? It still comes on sexual violation, or even gender issues, SGBV for real, because this child is actually seeing the teacher. The stage our teenagers are in, and you and I were there, right? You remember how volatile the hormones are, the sex gonads or the sex hormones. And you find that children do not understand But the teenagers, most of them are hyperactive. Even the ones who are not sexually hyperactive, either they are so much engaged in games. But we do have most of the kids, depending on their personality, temperaments, they don't engage in those active activities in school, or what we call co-curricular activities. And so they have a lot of energy centered. And so anything that can actually excite them. And so even when we talk about dress code in schools, dress code even in universities that is decent, we are protecting somebody there. So for boys, it's different. And let me tell you the other thing I have discovered.
But the dress code should apply both ways. Both
ways, definitely, because even for men, definitely.
Both ways as regards even the teachers or the lecturers.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Actually, across. Because for boys, I have told you, boys are becoming these men we are talking about. They only need to see, look, and start imagining. So I don't know why we assume because they're in that classroom, I can come dressed the way I want, I can show off some of my body parts, and these kids are hurting. One day, you've had cases, some cases I get into schools. The other thing maybe I want to say, Lillian, about boys, sodomy is happening in schools. And I have told you the list I've given you about that vulnerable child, the at-risk child, also happens to these boys. And I want to talk to parents. You are the safest object for your child. Even if you live overseas, find ways that you're in touch with your child and let the parents know 50-50 responsibility. Because if you are a father and you have a child in this country, or you're a mother and the other parent is outside, you are actually responsible for that child. And the principals need to know this, because I don't think they know. They don't know they can also report these parents to the children's office. We have a very good working relationship in Thika with the children's office. We have even formed a network because we have also realized, and I'm sure she knows that, as much as we talk about the children council services, we do have people who use our children just to bring money into the country. But it's not about them. And when I also talk about being, having a counselor, a professional counselor in school, not doing any other thing, because the dual relationship will conflict a child. This is my maths teacher, the same person I'm supposed to go and tell my personal issues. And I don't know how long, as much as we are talking about very beautiful policies, very beautiful protocols, very beautiful guidelines, so long as they are not working, we are still putting our child at risk.
Okay, now while you respond to what Daktari here is raising in terms of course, policy and the gaps, once again, as regards reporting and nothing being done about this, most past cases reveal that, you know, complaints and red flags have gone ignored. And that's why we're starting to see, years after the abuse has happened, old girls or old boys actually raising these issues. In terms of institutional accountability in this country, yes, there is the reporting channels, and yes, you know, the reports might be there, perhaps, like even Daktari is talking about. But in terms of the institutions themselves taking accountability, there's a serious concern there.
I think I agree that the policies are there, but the practice, you know, it's one thing to have a nice policy, it's a nice thing to have a nice act, but then we need people who are very accountable and people who actually care for this country. In schools, I know she has mentioned about counselors, but what the Ministry of Education has done, and not to speak for them, is that they have teachers that are trained on guidance and counseling. And probably the question, is that enough? Is there more training that need to be given to these teachers so that at least they're able to be more empathetic, to be more listening, not to, sometimes a victim is always shamed because of the questioning, you know, how you face the victim, the questions you ask. Sometimes you say you're the one who took yourself and all that. Of course, from the police side, because matters of gender-based violence, Lillian, are criminal, meaning that they need to follow the criminal justice. The police need to be involved, the hospitals, if there's any penetration. and the police have now the gender desk. And the question is that also enough? Is there a way we can ensure that all these people who are given the responsibility are given better training? Of course, in terms of personality, because if I'm the one, someone come to report and I ask those bad questions, why were you, where were you going, what were you wearing, where were you? It means it is me, but not the government. We now also have to take, to hold people responsible, individual responsible.
In terms of holding people responsible, we talked about institutional accountability, and there's the school leadership and the boards who are sometimes, you know, being seen not to act decisively when it comes to actually acting on suspicions of grooming or even reports of grooming, perhaps because of years of academic prowess, the academic giants we know in this school. And so you find the boards themselves, the leadership of the schools themselves, not taking action when children actually come out to say this is happening to them. So in terms of these boards, how can they be regulated, better managed outside the school's fraternity or the school fraternity to ensure that the people in these boards actually have the best interests of these children at heart?
Actually, the law says that if someone reports to me and I don't take action, I think there should be some action taken. I think the Sexual Offences Act has something on that aspect. But in terms of the board, and I'm a board member, I'm actually a board chair in a school, sometimes it's the evidence, because you see the evidence has to be watertight. And because, as I said, matters of violence, gender-based violence, and anything closer to that is a criminal process. You're actually not supposed to even do alternative dispute resolution. I should not sit with the teacher or the learner and try to bring them to the table and agree on anything. I should actually follow the criminal justice process. So where is the evidence? What is the evidence saying? And sometimes you realize, because maybe assuming someone went even to the extent of being sexually abused, but they never reported the time where they were abused, meaning the evidence is already, it's not there because they never went to hospital maybe, maybe there was no report taken, maybe the police were not involved, maybe they don't have an OB number, and hence it becomes very difficult for that. But I think more training, and also maybe some of because when you're appointed as a board member, you're given your terms of reference. One of them should actually be part of that, so that you can hold somebody responsible. Because if it is not written, the letter that I get from the ministry, if it doesn't involve me taking care of certain aspects, then you're able to take the back seat and say, it is not my responsibility. But as a country, Lydian, even when we are talking about policies and laws, we need to talk about values. Because why are we doing all this to our children? Why should I be taking advantage of a child who is 5 years, who is 6 years? Why should we be reading statistics from Kenya, KDHS 2022, that 15% of our kids got children when they were children? You know, they were below the age of 18. What action have we taken with this data? What are we doing? Now we have the positive parenting. I know you talk to parents. We have the positive parenting policies. How will it be implemented? How are we supporting parents to also understand their responsibility? Because when I think sometimes parents even fear to go to school. I keep encouraging my parents, the parents that I have in my school, please come, hold us accountable. There's always that fear. There is a school, it is us. And hence, even when you encourage them to come report, to come speak with the teachers, they don't do that. And I think we have to dismantle the walls between the school and the community. And I think that is the spirit of the CBE, the competence-based education, because we even have the PE, parental involvement and engagement, in the curriculum process, so that you are able to be involved in your child, growth, you're able to identify some of the challenges. Statistics have shown, Lillian, that violence is actually happening, and it comes from the person you already know.
Yeah, and
intimate partners, your parents, your uncles, your brothers, and all that. You remember the case of the girl who was killed in Nyeri, was killed by somebody that the mother knew and the girl knew, so they were walking home. You know, the Mkokoteni gentleman who killed a girl in Nyeri is someone you actually know is my neighbor, is my friend, is a friend to my parent. So how do we ensure that even when it is nice for me to have my child have friendship with my people, that I'm always reminding them, if this happened, do this?
And Dr. I want you to jump in right there. Parental responsibility, where, you know, this grooming term is so diverse in terms of its implications. When we talk about grooming, can it extend to building trust? The perpetrator, for example, building trust with the parents, other teachers within the school, perhaps coming across as a very safe space. And so as a parent, when you leave your child under the care of this particular teacher or extracurricular teacher or what have you, you're assured that your child is safe because already this person has built trust with you, and the board, the school board knows this is an exemplary person. The fellow colleagues in the school know that this is an exemplary teacher. They would never cause any harm. So in terms of the parents as well, we all know that once you leave your child in school, you're leaving them under the care of that school, be it boarding school, be it day school. So let's talk about the sensitivities there of the perpetrator actually building trust.
And that's what I have told you. It's very sad because it's like you've already said it, Lillian, where you find parents believe this teacher is like me. Nobody can be like you and your child. Never. And we also have parents who give the teachers even money to keep for these children. Demand for very good grades in this country has gone to a level where parents pay teachers for personalized or privatized tuition. And so you're always with this teacher. And this is known. It's not something that is not known. That my child is no good in math, is no good in chemistry, because we don't just look at men on the other hand, because I'm looking at this discussion, and especially because of what has happened recently, and we are thinking it's only male teachers who actually sexually violate children. Even touching me inappropriately, even if you're a female teacher, you're still violating me. And sometimes I was just asking her, what is the country doing right now? Because when you get a student with a letter written, you must see a counselor for 3 sessions, and then report to your local priest or pastor for 3 sessions, and you have been suspended for being a lesbian. If a parent would ask, what does this mean? Do we even have an answer? And when I look at these young ones, and I'm sure there are parents who are watching me right now, do they even understand what sex is at that age? Do they even understand what is happening within them unless we work with them and you're trusting that teacher in school, maybe who went through same crisis like you, is the one who is going to handle your child. You are trusting that teacher in school is the one who is going to do everything that you're supposed to do as a parent. Schools that have gotten it, and I'm happy you are in the BOM, they are not dealing with the child alone. They are dealing with the parent, they're dealing with the child, they're dealing with the teacher, they're dealing with the BOM. Because even the BOM, how much capacity building have you been given? I look at the way we are very strict on international schools in this country, or private schools. You'll be so shocked. You will find they do have child protection policy, safeguarding protocols in their schools. Ask me which school in this country, public schools, that we can say as a country we own. Go through and you will see the international schools, because they know the parents of such children, maybe they are the diplomats in the UN and wherever, they know their rights.
But this respond to that purity.
Yes.
Is that an unfair statement? Do our public schools have the same luxury in terms of child protection policies that the private schools have?
I think the private school are able to contextualize, because you already have the national acts on children, isn't it? You have all these national policies that have agreed on by the country itself, and hence you're hoping that it has been cascaded in terms of, you know, implementation, because the policy guides implementation and the practice. So I think what she's saying is that the schools then go ahead and prepare their own contextualized, you know, gender-based violence policies or diversity or child protection policies and protocols. But I think just to be on the other side, I think these days schools have changed. I was telling somebody that where I'm a board member, we have so many places where children can just walk out. And if I visit the school and I find children out, I ask my principal, have you reached out to their parents? And even parents come to sit in those corners, because if your child has sat on that corner for a period of time, then there's something. So we need also to, as she's saying, to ensure that parents, and we break the barrier. I think is that wall that was built where parents, especially from our villages, because of maybe low level of self-awareness, you're still shying away. Maybe you had not ensured your child has good uniform and you don't want to be, you know, we kind of self-judge, and hence we're not able to be very good, responsible parents.
I want to draw your attention to, remarks by PS Education Julius Bitok, who recently said, and this is in reaction to allegations against a teacher in one of the elite schools in the country, that no teacher has any business pursuing inappropriate relationships with learners. Any breach of trust will be met with swift disciplinary and legal action. In another statement, he also said, we are committed to upholding learner safety and dignity in all education institutions. So in terms of the Ministry of Education, the TSC, are they taking this issue seriously enough? Because some of these statements seem to be more reactionary than proactive in terms of what has actually been happening in this space and what clearly has been ignored for years.
TSC has a very good disciplinary process in terms of interdicting the teachers. And of course, probably, as I said, evidence is what is needed, because you cannot instigate any disciplinary measures upon your staff if you don't have enough concrete evidence. Is it reactionary? Of course, this case that has happened of the recent past, all of us were taken, you know, in a surprise, because it's not what we would have been expecting from certain institution. But it just shows that there are gaps. There are gaps in terms of how children report. For me, I feel is the element of reporting. How do we create a safe space that a child knows that, yes, Teacher Lillian is my maths teacher, but he or she is not treating me the way I need to be treated. And even do those kids know their rights? So there's an element of ensuring that we continue educating them in terms of, if someone touches me, that is wrong. If someone gives me a gift so that I'll pay later. But also, you know, I'm reflecting now as a parent, you know, as a parent with children. I am so happy when I see my child having a boarding relationship with a teacher, because I know that child every morning. My son wants to go to school. I know he's being treated well. I know he's being appreciated, you know. So how do you then draw a balance between what is wrong and what is right? Because not everything that teachers are doing in schools is wrong. Because some of our children don't have a safe space at home. They are coming from broken families. And the only safe space is in the classroom, is with that teacher, is that teacher who accommodates, who listens. So how do we also ensure that children are able to differentiate what is wrong? Because not everything in terms of you helping me and showing me love that is wrong. We are speaking about love in this country. So how do you ensure that there's a balance, especially even defining it? Because I think she mentioned about the definition in the policy. Because if it is not defined, it's very difficult for you to have evidence on it. And also to have any criminal process.
And you know, when you talk about evidence, really, in the context of a boarding school, how does this child even get access to perhaps a medical facility if that line has been crossed and there's, you know, a sexual breach? How does that child access a medical facility? This is a boarding school. If it is a school nurse, we talked about safe reporting spaces. The first of all, point of reference from this school nurse will probably be, you know, the school head or whatever, say that something's wrong. Do they even have... And, you know, we're not assuming that this is happening. Like Purity said, you know, we're not saying that this is what teachers are doing, but there is a concern that it is happening within some institutions. So I want you to talk around terms such as evidence, when a child actually says, this is happening to me. Secondly, I want us to talk about safe spaces. Where is the gap and what can be done better?
So, and I think that's how we end up missing on giving them the justice that they deserve. Evidence, evidence, evidence. And that's why, for me, contextualizing is going to save us. at the end of the day, because some of them do not even know. They have no idea, like she had said, that this is sexual violence. What I would like to say is that if they are actually trained, even on collecting evidence, because like where I teach, we even tell students, if somebody approaches you and they're telling you ABCD, you have your phone. You know, in universities, every student has a phone. You can record. In school, it's the teachers who are very good. And by the way, I taught for 7 years in high school. So I'm also talking from a point of reference, where I saw this happening, Lillian, and there's nothing I could do as a teacher. I also trained teachers that I had to tell, if you try this on anybody's child who knows that this is violation of their children's rights, you will actually be behind bars. So what I would say is, how does this child collect evidence? So we need also to have conversations, and schools know it. Some of the notes, for example, if the teachers, some teachers go to a level of writing notes to these students, keep that as evidence. Some of them will touch you, shout and scream. Some of teachers will actually give you those sacred gifts. Go and take these gifts to the teacher you confide in or you trust. The issue is, because I feel so sad, Lillian, that we have brought these kids to give them professional counseling services, whereas in that school, we do have the guidance and counseling teachers. But to tell you the truth, majority of them, are they trained? This issue we are talking about is an issue of trauma. Even the children we go labeling, they are this and that, labels that I don't agree to personally, because some of these students are shamed. You go and say, oh, Mr. So-and-so or teacher so-and-so was trying this and this. Hey, we know you. Because I told you the risk, the children who are at risk mostly are those who are sanguines. They are outgoing. Yeah, so they jump into things. And the teacher will say, we know you with your kibelebele. That is why this has been happening to you. Sometimes it is about shaming the parents, true or false. I am liking your term, breaking barriers. There are teachers who think the parents are like the students they teach. So even a parent is so afraid. You hear that your child has a case. Instead of running there to know what's happening, you are so afraid, you're so panicky, and sometimes the way they are treated. So when she says break the barriers, can the parent be given a chance? I think we say many things in writing, but it's not in practice. That you can come anytime, find out how your child is doing, but that doesn't happen. I'm not saying all schools, because even the case of sexual violence, it could be 2% or 1% in schools. Majority of teachers are good, and some of them, and I feel sad parents, that a teacher can replace you. That the teacher is the one who is going to get this evidence, and it's not you, the parent. So every holiday, parents that care how their child is doing in school, especially in boarding schools, you should actually have some of these things. And you should actually rise up. Don't say, it will go, even if the teacher is doing this now.
Or quietly transfer your child to another school.
Not even that transfer. The child tried to raise that kind of a comment or a complaint. You are going to mark this school of ours red. So you had better go. Which other school do you take this child?
And you know, Purity, as a board member now away from your seat at the National Gender and Equality Commission, there are teachers who know that this is happening. Perhaps, you know, within the school fraternity, they know the teachers that are actually crossing the line. And, you know, for these teachers who might actually want to whistle blow such issues, they may not have proper reporting channels as well to say that, look, there's an issue here and I think I'm concerned about it. So how can boards of schools, the leadership of schools, away from the administration, better equip teachers to know that there's a safe space where they too can actually report this? If they feel that perhaps the grooming is happening even within the staff room, and so this is a favorite teacher somewhere, a favorite extracurricular teacher somewhere, and therefore we cannot report them because we'll be, you know, witch hunted or you know. How can teachers also find safe spaces to report this outside, or where can teachers find safe spaces to report this outside the school administration?
Just first to mention that we have a call number 1195, and anybody can report. And actually, recently, because I was appointed by the president, the Technical Working Group on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, we tried it. You call it, someone will pick.
What is that number again?
1195.
1195.
Yeah, and it actually works. And, you know, sometimes it's good to try, you know, to actually confirm. And
maybe I should try it right now.
And so there's a number that everybody can call and say, I'm reporting this case, this has happened. They'll ask you where you are, who is near you, what have you done. And in case it's a matter of you need to rush to hospital, because, you know, sometimes, especially if it's a sexual violence, if there's penetration, the evidence is the swab and all those things, you know. So they will guide you on the process. And recently, I've seen the Minister of Education for the first time training teachers on gender-based violence. They were training more on the CBE and the curriculum and how to roll out. I think we have taken time to ensure that people have moved on from the 844 to the new system. And maybe there are some aspects that were forgotten. But if you look at the recent training for the last couple of months, I think because of the increase on the cases of gender-based violence, there have been a deliberate training. So I think the responsibility of the principal is high here, because you cannot be leading a school and yet yourself, you're not a responsible leader, because a responsible leader is the one who is listening to the other teachers. What are they saying? You can have a box where people just come and throw in, you know, what we even have in our institution. That, because I'm the CEO of the National Gender and Equality Commission. If my staff are not happy, they have a place. They can just come, put their thoughts, their ideas, their complaints, and it is going to get to me, or it is going to get to the board or the commission. So we could have certain measures like those one in the school, but we see this is a proactiveness of the leader, because the government really cannot come to now the school and say, you must have this. You have to always, as a leader, ask yourself, these problems are facing us in school that our teachers would want to report. But I think the government, the school system, not the government, the school system, and if you look at the TSC, they have a good reporting mechanism, and the disciplinary process is quite good. But in terms of the evidence, I think the ideas she gave because of the boarding school. But luckily, with the CBE, most of our children will actually be in day schools. Actually, not many. 77% of our children in this country are in day schools right now. But because we never profile day schooling, we always think that most of them are in high school. Of course, we have the 33%. But now with the CBE, you realize that most of our children will go to the next day school that is next, because I have a primary school where I went to school. We have a secondary school, or what we are now calling senior school. And probably most of my kids from the primary will transit there. And hence it will be a change. And sometimes, you know, when you talk about day schooling, people are very hesitating. They would want us to profile more of the boarding schools. Yes, in certain places, but where you're able to have a child getting home so that they have this parental guidance and parents taking responsibility of their children.
We'll be taking your feedback very shortly. Please send in your questions to us, 22422, as we forward those questions to our experts in studio. I want to talk away from the school context now, and this is with regards to the value system that you talked about in our society, starting with you, Dr. Gitau. Sexism is becoming a predatory norm in our nation today, where we know that in the political space, in the employment space, even in selection processes, perhaps in universities, in terms of, it could be clubs, it could be student leadership, it is happening. So the gaps, and this starting right from the foundation stage, which is in schools, that's foundation for our children, and now becoming a societal norm, where we actually had a legislator the other day speak out and say that for them to access a high-ranking member of the government, that they have to pass through a certain individual. So normalizing that, and the fact that it is actually happening. People are feeling the need to ask for favors from others before they give them opportunities.
And don't forget, we have the Sexual Offences Act of 2006. I hope it's also under review. It's under review. It's sad. Right now, people are speaking, but I want to let you know, Lillian, this has been the norm, and especially biased against women. such that because of most positions of leadership and management are held by men. And so if you really want to access some levels of promotion or access some resources, that's it. And it's very sad, including our very women who are in the political spaces, that you want resources maybe to actually carry out your mandate in the area you have been given by the very voters that have also given the other person the same. And we've also seen in companies, these things are there. And my prayer is that women can arise and speak up. There's no shame in speaking up, because some people are very good. Maybe it's because you're just talking about women and children. Maybe some other dockets, nobody would allow you to take that position. And when I appeal to the justice system, I feel sad. When you have the justice and criminal system compromised, Lillian, where else do you go? Because all these things are there. If you get into our constitution, we are covered in the constitution in writing, but am I covered in practice? And so there's a very big gap between what is in the books and what is in practice. And that is what worries me. And sometimes I wonder if we are in this space, like you have beautiful policies every day, NGOs are bringing in a lot of money to ensure that we have positive parenting policies, child safeguarding, very beautiful books. But when it comes to implementation, as she's saying, at the grassroots level, do they even know? The Children's Act 2022, how many of the children in the slum, that school where the parents are illiterate, they are poor, they are thinking of what to eat on a daily basis, are aware? And the women, because women, we are the custodians of this life first, because we carry these babies in our wombs. And you know the pain of bringing this child into this life. But we do not have, I don't think we still have that voice. We are still fighting for that voice.
Jumping on that, Ngina, in terms of civic education, a lot of resources were pumped into understanding the Constitution. And yet, like Dr. here is saying, with the Children's Act, very little is known about what it entails.
Yeah, thanks, Lillian. Allow me to first go back to something she mentioned about the dress code. I think we have a professional outlook, you know, as government. You have seen many people with suit ties and what have you. Of course, now things are changing, and it is because the world, or sometimes people feel like you should actually evolve. And when you think about when it was very strictly how you dress and that, all the things you're raising could not be there. But also we have come to appreciate that we should actually not allow the perpetrators to give us excuses that you had dressed somehow. And that is why I saw you and I spotted you and I did something. I wanted to mention that. In terms of values of this country, and just going back to the children as our, you know, the people we are speaking about, if you look at the CBE, the competence-based education, it has prioritized 8 values. Not even the Constitution, yes, has talked about the values, but even in the education system, we have 8 values that have been mainstreams, you know, love, respect, social justice, peace, and all that. And they are well documented in the curriculum. I mean, the teachers actually have been trained on how to ensure that these values are mainstream. As you're teaching mathematics, you are ensuring that children are getting the values of empathy, respect, love, peace, and all that. But again, it's not what we are told, it's what you see. If ourselves, because we are the blackboard, we are the mirror. Our children are looking at me, my children are looking at me and saying, my mama is doing that. So why is she saying that it is wrong? So we as a country have to kujita mkutano, and we say some of the things that we are doing, especially people who are given positions, is wrong. And we have to be we are the blackboard. The children are learning from us. In terms of value, right now the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development is piloting the value-based education materials. And I think that will be a game changer. Because then every teacher, every learner, every parent, including the board, we have a responsibility. Because I supported, before I joined the commission, in terms of looking at some of the areas of those materials, you realize everybody has a piece of it. And if they are well trained and well implemented, then something will come. I've just some thoughts have come to my mind about the role of chiefs, or what we call the Ngao, the National Government Administration, the chief, the sub-chief. When we were growing up, the chiefs and the sub-chief played a very critical role. They would call for barazas, and we would go, and that is where training happens. But these days, wananchi haendi. So we also invite the public to actually take advantage of all the government institutions. These are the people you're paying. So when they call you for a meeting, go and hold them accountable there. Go listen to the training they are offering, if, for example, there's something they want to communicate. Because I think, as she said, right now, most of the capacity building are left from the other sides. People you cannot hold accountable. Because if I'm not, you cannot hold a private individual accountable, but I can hold my sub-chief accountable, my teacher, because they are being paid through the taxpayers' money. And so I also invite the public to keep reminding us that we have a role to play.
To hold your leaders accountable.
To hold us accountable.
Right, let's get your questions. Thanks for that, Purity. I want to get your questions as we begin to close. Let's take a look at what you're saying. Right. What if heads try to protect their staff and the kid has no confidence to report a teacher? I propose that every school has a caretaker or a matron. Let's take the other one. If the TSC processes are truly effective and working, why have such cases continued to happen and for so many years? Good morning, Lillian. If a teacher threatens me for reporting something, who should I tell? I'm genuinely afraid of my safety and I don't know where to turn. And then here, the real issue lies in the school reporting mechanisms. Yes, they exist, but the problem is the profiling that follows. While some teachers are genuinely good, the judgment and stigma a student might face after reporting often discourages them from speaking up. That's in most cases. The matter is likely to be swept under the rug to protect the school's image, not the student's well-being. Dr. Gitao, I'll start with you. The fear of reporting, and we talked about safe reporting channels, and obviously this is a serious concern, right from the student who feels that they may be a victim to even the teachers, that fear within the school in itself. And I think another question there, which talked about, you know, the need to have matrons or people that are trusted within the school space. Actually, you know, that being a double-edged sword in itself, because in the case that is in the public domain now, the individual is actually somebody in a Christian Union sort of cocoon, where that's a safe space. So in terms of a matron as well. So the sensitivities around that, the fear of reporting, and the fact that the children feel, and even the teachers themselves who want to report these cases feel that those safe spaces are just not adequate. And I know we talked into that, but as we close, please.
So for me, if the child is assured of safety, they're always ready to talk. But that assurance is the one that is lacking. I would actually propose that we do have school-based child protection officers, that they visit the school on a regular basis. They don't stay there. But if we do have teachers who can keep confidentiality, they are able to help these students. What I worry, just like our national outfit, we react. We are not proactive. Because students, after they have reported a teacher, the next thing they want to do with the parent is to get out of that school. Because they know if it is known it is me who actually told of this teacher, who reported this teacher, then I do not have safety here. The same case happens with children, the peer-to-peer sexual violence. If they are known they are the ones who have reported this group of students or these students, they leave the school. Because there are serious cases reported to principals or heads of institutions of learning that this and this and this is happening to me. You find someone is asleep and their mattress, the other students who have been reported, pour water, or the teacher, you will never have peace in this school. We do have teachers, and teachers, I appeal to you. I am one. Once a teacher, I always say, always a teacher. Sometimes I always wonder, if that was your son or your daughter, would you like them to be treated like that? Because I look at some point where we are looking at these kids, and we've seen the most at risk is 13 to 17. Why would you have war with the child? So my prayer is, let's not be reactive teachers. If you're given information, 2 weeks is good enough. do your own investigations, and then later on respond. But don't react immediately. Go into reporting to staff rooms that I was told Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so is doing ABCD. These kids feel very unsafe. But when I go back to her, what capacity building has been done? Yeah. By the way, I pity these teachers, because when we do write letters that are comprehensive back to the school, they are like, wow, we did not know. We do not know this child has all these childhood traumas. We do not know that this child started fearing reporting authorities because they do not have a bonded relationship with their parents. So when they come to school, they see we are also the same. And for me, I would say, if we do have the chiefs coming in, why do we have those local police stations, outstations, you know, near every school? Why do we have them? Because we have the children's and gender desk in police stations. We do have the child officers in every sub-county. But do people know how to access them? Because even me as a parent, if I am putting that child at risk, then this nation of Kenya, this government should protect me. Some of these kids don't know where to go. The parents tell them, you leave that school, where else would you think you can go? You move from a national school. Eh? Yeah, you want me to bring you to this Karomaido school next door, you know? And the child continues to say, because of my parents. Parents, kindly let your kids not suffer at the expense of making you unhappy.
Right. I don't quite remember the question on the Teacher Service Commission, but Purity, I'm sure you saw the question there on the Teacher Service Commission and the concerns that lie therein. Could we get that question again, Ibrahim? Very quickly, the Teacher Service Commission. The Teacher Service Commission. Right. Concerns around the Teacher Service Commission. And there we go. If the TSC processes are truly effective and working, why have such cases continued to happen and for so many years? So the Teacher Service Commission, and I had put this question to you before, Purity, around the Ministry of Education and the TSC, them being more reactive than actually having walked this journey with students over the years, even across different governments, in terms of ensuring that this reality is actually addressed, it being a very serious concern across schools in the country.
Thanks. But before I mention the teacher service, I want to clarify that the Ngao and the police play a very different role. For me, the Ngao would be more in terms of civic education, capacity building, because they are the people who organize barazas within the villages, and they are people we actually know. The police is the criminal process. So if someone has taken advantage of me, I go to the police, I get an OB, you start filling the P3 forms and all that process, and then you can start the legal, the criminal justice process where you go to the court. So I think they're different, they play different roles, and all those roles are very critical in terms of supporting the process, you know. But in terms of Teacher Service Commission, not to speak for them, when we had the fire in Edarasha, I had written to the Teacher Service Commission to tell us about the measures they have taken because they had issued guidelines before. And we got a very rich report on the many teachers that have been interdicted, and they actually do it. Of course, because they are not, I think the government, we shy away from speaking about the things that we have done. Hence, people don't even know that that has happened. So we have, I personally, as the CEO of National Gender and Equality Commission, received a letter with all the statistics, what have they been doing, how many teachers, what was the case, and all that. In terms of other places, like the commission, we are given powers for people to report to us. We have lawyers and advocates who can, and litigators who can actually support children who probably would feel like they might not get justice. So we have support within different arms of government. And I think the issue of reporting really, and we have to really think about the boarding schools, because it is human for me to protect my colleague. But is that right? It is not. So how do we ensure that teachers are given are trained on how to, yes, no is a work, is a job. You know, sometimes when my staff are unhappy with me, they tell me it's not you, Ngena, it is the office. So how do we separate me as purity from the individual? So then you're able to support the children. But I think we are committed to promoting equality and freedom from all forms of discrimination as a commission.
Thanks for that, Purity Ngena, CEO, National Gender and Equality Commission. Daktari, in terms of the mental well-being, I want you to speak into the future of the children of this country as regards this vice. Very shortly, 2 words from you as we close.
I would like to say that we need to contextualize all the policies that safeguard the rights of the child. It doesn't matter who you are, but if you actually violate a child's right, and especially sexual violence, I would like you to know you're setting up that child for very difficult adulthood, and I would rather we prevent than actually react as a nation. Thank you.
Many thanks for that. Dr. Susan Gitao is a psychologist and a lecturer at the African Nazarene University. We've also been with Purity Ngena, CEO, National Gender and Equality Commission. Let's keep our children safe. My name is Lillian Muli. Have a lovely day.